Assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Walaikum assalam. Alhamdulillah, keeping busy, always.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I would love to dive into your story. So let's look at who was Zaid before the change of scope of work, before the titles. What was your early experiences?
When you say before the change of scope, like before corporate or before this?
Before corporate.
Before corporate. I was just a kid trying to figure out how to make something out of life.
Yeah.
Trial and error pretty much. Dropped out of school. Okay. And decided to just work my way through the ranks in corporate.
Okay. And your early life experiences? What does family mean to you? Where did you grow up?
Grew up in Lens. Family has always been a very important and huge part of life.
Yeah.
And I think from that perspective, the idealism around the family unit and that cohesiveness that we need, I think that's something that's always been a driving factor. I can't say it was a driving factor because of conscious thought or deliberate kind of effort on my part. It's just something that always seemed important.
So what was the point that made you change your purpose, or change your path towards this purpose?
That's a tough one because I've never really approached life with the expectation of, or even the curiosity of trying to find out what's my purpose. Mm-hmm. I've always found purpose in what it was I was doing. So if I did something mundane, and not being condescending or anything, but like even a call center job, it wasn't that wasn't what defined what I wanted to do or what I was needing to do. It was always a stepping stone to something else. Okay, so what next? Yeah. How can I build on this? How do I move forward? There was always something that I was looking for beyond what I was busy with, and I'm doing that right now as well. It's still the same thing. So I think getting to this point has been just curiosity. Mm-hmm. Curiosity and conviction, just pushing myself all the time to say, there must be something more than this.
Yeah.
There has to be something of greater meaning, of greater, not really purpose, just what's the value? What's the point of us being here? What's the point of us doing what we're doing?
Yeah.
Just trying to live with a bit more deliberate conscience in the moment rather than just some big ideal that we're chasing because of what it might result in at some point.
Yeah. And what would you say the Muslim community is kind of lacking on that part without being intentional in what they're doing?
I think the Muslim community is in a really unfortunate state. As much as we've got a lot of good that's going for us, I think we've lost a sense of purpose beyond the rituals and beyond the punishment and reward conversations. Mm-hmm. We've lost sight of what is it that we're supposed to be impacting while we're here? How is it that we're supposed to have impact on others while we're here? Yeah. And even though we have those conversations from time to time, the sad thing is that those conversations are focused on what's in it for us as far as Jannah and Jahannam is concerned when we do something for someone else. It's never just about do it because you should, because it's the right thing to do, because people need that and you need that and you're getting that from others, so you shouldn't even think twice about giving it to others. Yeah. So I think we've become so dogmatic in our way of looking at life as Muslims that everything now is about fatwas and madhabs and sectarianism and things like that. Very little about it is about actual living with conviction.
Mm. And the work that you do, it's extremely emotional and it's all about self-awareness. Personally for you, what was your inner battles that you maybe fought or when you became self-aware?
I think it was just some very colorful life experiences that taught me that prevailing wisdom was not giving me the answers I needed.
Okay.
So the kind of advice and the guidance and the frameworks and things that we get from family, from community, from society, from ulama and things like that, it just trying to figure out how life works, it just never figured it out. It never gave the answers. It never gave the right kind of wisdom that was needed to be able to figure that out, especially if you don't have that gentle guiding hand, which is so rare these days. Even in nucleus families, it's so rare. Yeah. There's a family structure, but there's very little of the substance in the role players in those structures. So you end up making mistakes through trial and error, through idealism, through trusting blindly and things like that. And you only learn after the fact that, okay, you weren't wrong for trusting, maybe, for example, but you weren't aware of what it is that you were trusting, whether there was credibility in what you were trusting, or you might have had an idea of how you wanted to make something amazing, but you assumed that others were equally committed to it. And then you discover that they're not. And things like that eventually get you to question, why would people fall back on something that they committed to? Why would they walk away, or not even walk away? Why would they just like kind of slump away from what they claim was so important and so they're so passionate about? And that's something that happens so often these days. There's no shortage of people talking about their convictions and their passion and their purpose in life, but they don't live it. They talk about it. And I'm stupid enough to believe that when someone talks about it, they mean it. And that's where the colorful lessons came in.
So how did you overcome that then?
Tried to take as little time as possible to lick my wounds and more time to understand that there was very real reasons why it is that the disconnect happened. So look at the evidence and see from the evidence whether you were reckless or whimsical or idealistic. And if that was the contributing factor, then you own that and you move on. And when I say own it, I mean you accept that that was your contribution towards it. If you spend your life regretting or being bitter about someone else's contribution to the situation, you're stuck in a situation. You don't do anything about it. And then that defines you. That just seems too boring. To go through life being defined by a single experience is just such a waste of life.
Definitely. That's so true. You've mentioned accountability. So what would you say in this world where everyone's blaming the other? What's the main source of taking responsibility for yourself?
I think it's a lack of self-respect.
Okay.
I think people are so desperate to be respected, they don't realize that they don't respect themselves to begin with. And it sounds like a sweeping statement, but I always try to reduce things to like, what's the most logical explanation for why something is the way it is? So if someone says something and they do something else, then I need to understand, why is it that you might be sincere, you're not necessarily being deliberately dishonest, but yet your actions are conflicting with your intentions or your stated intentions. And it always comes down to that, is that when you lack self-respect and you lack self-awareness along with it, you don't hold yourself accountable for what you say. You hold yourself accountable for what you meant. And then if there's mitigating circumstances, you happily accept that it's out of my hands and I'm not responsible now because, look, I didn't mean this, or I didn't intend that, or I wasn't expecting that. So that accountability is something that we always outsource. We outsource it to others, and we outsource it to society and to government and to religious leaders and everyone. We always want to find a reason why it is that it can't be our fault. And the only time you don't want something to be your fault, without even contemplating or reflecting on it, is if you lack self-respect. I mean, how much do you respect yourself if you don't stand by what you actually claim to have conviction in? Then who are you? What are you made of? What drives you? What's the point of doing anything? Are you just ticking the boxes or plugging in the gaps so that people don't think negatively of you or something? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I think the absence of self-respect shows in how little respect people have for each other these days. Everything's transactional. Everything's very much about what's in it for me. And if there's nothing in it for me, then I don't have to treat you well. It's sad. And even in the charity spaces, you see it. The corruption in the charity organizations, the selfishness, it's all a lack of self-respect. We've lost sight of that.
That's something to sit with, eh? I think what you're saying actually invites a lot of people to self-reflect. That's
the thing. We don't take enough time to do that.
Yeah.
Everyone's so focused on how they must do things and what must be done and what they can expect. No one considers why.
And what would be the reason for the increased men's support group for mental health? Because that's like the most talked about thing right now.
That's a minefield on its own, because I think in one way men have allowed themselves to become emasculated, and they're blaming feminism for it. men have failed the ummah and they failed the world long before women had to take over. And because of that, they're now following the narrative rather than leading the narrative. So with women who are naturally nurturers by nature and are more in tune with emotional expression and emotional capacity and competence, men are now following that kind of rule of thumb almost to say that you need to be in touch with your emotions. Men were never emotional beings to begin with. And when I say we're not emotional beings, I don't mean we don't feel things. It's just that the emotion isn't the defining factor in it. We might feel angry about something or feel depressed about something, but it's not the emotion that's important. It's what it is that we're angry or depressed about that is important. And if we can't resolve that, it gives us reason to beat ourselves up. It gives us reason to feel insignificant or incompetent or inadequate. So the more you disempower a man or you disempower yourself from being able to meaningfully solve problems in your life as a man, you're going to need to talk to someone about it. Because you're not owning up. You're not stepping up and saying, okay, well, what am I doing that's contributing to this? What am I not owning about it? What am I being led by rather than taking the lead on?
Yeah.
And we've lost that balance. So now we're trying to make everyone these kind of drones of emotional expression, but there's no substance. And that's why we've given victims a soapbox that is now just destroying social harmony.
It is. It's a distraction for the communities, right?
Completely. When you lose that balance between men and women, and it's not about being sexist or anything of that sort, it's just there's a natural balance. And this is something that every sphere of, or every philosophy of psychology or experiences of human behavior and that agrees with, is that men focus on things and technical aspects of life, how things work, and women focus on nurturing and on social bonds and emotional expression and that sort of thing. So when women focus on people and men focus on things, and they contribute towards each other, towards this greater goal they're supposed to be achieving, you have harmony. You have mutual contribution, you have mutual respect, you have appreciation, you have all those things just kind of fall into place.
Yeah.
But now you take a man and ask him to operate like a woman because, he needs to be more sensitive. Then when does the woman accept accountability for being more sensitive towards how a man operates? Who starts? Who ends? Who goes first? Yeah. We've just, this idealism that we've adopted from the West, from secular thinking, is just ridiculous. It's destroyed the West. It's destroying their cultures. And now we're embracing it as if it's some newfound wisdom. As if for the last thousands of years, families didn't operate in a good way. Now everything is about childhood trauma and everything is about toxicity.
And narcissists.
And narcissists, yes. So every man thinks his wife is bipolar and every woman thinks her husband is a narcissist. We're crazy.
So what's the misconception of mental health? Well, I know you view it very different from the world. Yeah.
Right. And people think I do just because I want to have something different to say. It's not that at all. Yeah. It's that if mental health in the mainstream was offering us real, genuine answers, then why are we getting worse at society and not better? Why have we got a live stream genocide that no one wants to take any real meaningful action about?
Yeah.
Where's the mental health in that? So we've taken science and made it our gods, and we're trusting it as if it has evidence into it, but we don't consider the point of departure. And that's the thing. Mainstream mental health, the founder of mainstream mental health in its current state, especially from a psychiatry perspective, is Freud. And Freud was a pedophile who was protecting other pedophiles from criminal charges, which is why he developed his theories about sexual attraction between children and adults.
Okay.
Now that becomes the source. Take that and couple it with evolution theory and secular thinking, and suddenly your soul doesn't matter, your consciousness doesn't matter, because we assume that everything occurs in the body because you don't have a soul. Even though neuroscience completely contradicts that thinking, right? So neuroplasticity and neuroscience as a general understanding of how our brains work and everything, all that confirms that our brain is reactive to a conscious thought.
Yeah.
Yet we abandon this age-old wisdom and we think, nope, suddenly in the 21st century, we know about more about the human experience than we've known for millions of years. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
None of it adds up. So the only thing I'm left with is thinking that the only reason why we willingly submit to these fallacies of human experience is either it serves us or because we've completely lost touch with reality. And I think the evidence is in my favor. We've lost touch with reality. That's why we struggle to cope with it. And we need so many coping mechanisms and so many distractions. And we don't know where to even look for answers anymore because we've reduced our belief system to rituals.
And if you were to balance that with old Islamic teachings, what would you say? How would you balance the thought now or the mental health space now with spirituality?
I think the fact that we even view it or talk about it separately is a problem. And that's where we've lost the plot. We've created these compartmentalized approaches to life. Body, mind, soul is the biggest distraction ever, right? Because I've got the simple example I use, and as Muslims we'll be able to relate to this, is that imagine you had a really tough day fasting. And at the end of that tough day, you've got your perfectly chilled water and the perfect date waiting for you to break your fast. In that moment that you break your fast, you take that bite of the date and you sip that water. Is that a body, mind, or soul experience? It's all three in one. But yet somehow we want to maintain our body separately from our mind and separately from our soul. Where did we come up with this? This is not Islamic thinking. So we've adopted all of this ridiculous kind of philosophies from the West and from Eastern culture and the Indo-Pak culture and everything else. And we've wrapped it so tightly and intricately around our beliefs of Islam that now we can't tell the difference between the two anymore. So now I get people telling me about how it is that they meditate because, Salah doesn't do it for them. Come on. What are we missing? Right? So, and you can meditate, no problem. But if you're not getting the same kind of benefit from Salah, then understand that you've reduced your Salah to a ritual. Now, rituals have their place, but if it stops at being a ritual, what's the purpose of it? Then the purpose of it is about how it is that it's going to serve me in some way. And in that case, I want to avoid Jahannam. So if I'm avoiding outcomes all my life, I'm avoiding failure, I'm avoiding homelessness, I'm avoiding debt, I'm avoiding problems in my relationships, what are you actually building? You're not building anything. You're not working towards anything. You're just avoiding things all your life. And that's what we've come down to. We're fear-driven in almost everything. That's why we're so easily triggered about everything. And that's why we're so quick to anger about things. And that's why we can't have tough discussions anymore without feeling like a personal attack.
And the way to solve it?
Reclaim your agency. Start wanting to do something meaningful in your own way with your life. Don't try to tick someone else's boxes so that they can respect you. If you ask most people what's the purpose of their life, most people won't want to admit it, but they won't be able to tell you anything more than working towards retirement.
Okay.
And then you work towards retirement after a lifetime of accumulating wisdom about how life works. And then you switch off and you go and you enjoy your quiet years alone. And then we complain that we don't have elders in our families anymore, keeping them together, because we've subscribed to a system that is destroying us, and it has so much of bling associated with it that we get distracted by the bling and we lose sight of the fact that there's no substance to life anymore.
It's superficial.
It is completely. It's a synthetic life, and that's why Dubai is so popular. It's synthetic life.
We all go there, though. What has been one of the hardest lessons that you faced, and what has it taught you in life?
That's a tough one. Hard lessons. I think idealism coupled with conviction can be extremely destructive. We have ideals, and you start out in life with ideals, especially as teenagers, right? And if you don't have someone to guide you on how to apply those ideals practically, how to live it, not just talk about it or preach it, you end up learning how life works through trial and error. And the trial and error approach to life is extremely expensive, emotionally and financially. And that's what we've lost. I think we've lost that connection with generational wealth and wisdom. And we're so busy believing that the world is different now and we don't do things the way we used to because it's outdated and it's kind of orthodox and all of those things, that we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater. So my idealism has led me to make myself available to situations that were not good for me or sometimes for the people around me. And it was only after the fact that I could do damage control and own it. And picking up the pieces after that each time can either be an exercise in reinforcing your inability to figure life out, or it can inform your understanding of how life works. And the choice you make there is based on what you expect from yourself. It's not based on anything else. The moment you're worried about how other people perceive you when you're down and out, you'll stay down and out for the rest of your life, even though you might be making $1 million a month.
Okay, so you've been a mentor for many years. How has that impacted your life?
That's what always drew me into understanding the human experience behind the technical kind of problem we're trying to solve. So when I spent a lot of time in corporate, more than 25 years, I always found myself in leadership roles very soon after I started in the corporate space. And in those leadership roles, it was always about hiring, firing, creating new teams, organizational restructures, things like that. And in the process, what I always connected with the most was why it is that someone who had the aptitude didn't have the confidence. And then we're so focused on telling them how they must go about doing things, we don't actually just take that impediment out of the way, the lack of confidence. And the lack of confidence is where you're more concerned about what others think of you and how you appear to them rather than what you think of yourself. And the moment you connect people with that, you just see they actually own everything, and their ability to grasp new ideas, make themselves available to taking risks and exploring new domains and things, it just goes through the roof. They're self-driven then. And that's what always fired me up, was seeing people go from that hesitant, self-doubting, self-loathing space into the space of not being confident, because that's now another just a coping mechanism. It's moving from the self-doubt and self-loathing into just being purposeful, being in the moment, being present, being understanding of what's the conviction that they're living up to, and seeing them progress without much effort, rather than making sure I gave them tools and habits and methods and exercises to navigate life. No, that's not sustainable.
Yeah. And what would you suggest, or what would the tips be to get out of that space?
Keep yourself honest. If you claim to believe in a certain value system, are you living it? Not talking about it and preaching it to others and expecting others around you to respect it, but are you living it? If you expect others to take accountability for their impact on you, are you taking accountability for your impact on them? Or are you so focused on how they're impacting you, you don't consider that you have impact as well? And that's something that most people are just completely blind to. They're so focused on how people react that they don't ever consider why it is that they might be soliciting that reaction. And it's not because of a negative, it's just we don't realize what we mean to others because we're looking for the evidence of that in the wrong places.
It's two ways.
Yeah. And we're so transactional, we're looking for what they're doing for us.
Yeah.
We don't look at how it is that they might do things that we didn't even ask them to do, or how it is that they might feel about things that we did as just a matter of fact from our side, but it brightened up their entire day.
Yeah.
We're oblivious to that. We're oblivious to the humans behind the roles. We just focus on the role players.
Something fun about you is that you love playing TV games still, right?
Mm-hmm.
But today's youth seems very absorbed in the TV games and the iPads and all of that. Do you think it affects the way that they think?
I think it's the reason for playing TV games that is important.
Okay.
The youth have exchanged social structure and purpose in life with online platforms. And that's why you don't see them in the streets playing cricket anymore like we used to do when we were kids. You see them busy online. So their entire experience and their entire life is very intricately woven into that online culture. So the gaming just becomes an extension of that, or it becomes a new social hierarchy for them. For me, it's not that. For me, it's about the fascination and the fun and the joy and the testing my skill and all of that. So that will be revealed in the kind of games we play.
Yeah.
So people that play the first-person shooter games, they probably got anger issues, right? But it's like, what does it do for you? Why are you doing it? And if that's your primary kind of go-to, then do you have anything else of substance in your life that you feel good about, that you feel accomplished about?
Yeah.
Because your sense of self, your self-respect, your self-esteem, your self-worth, all of that is built up through your sense of accomplishment in ways that impacts others. In the absence of that, you have to constantly be fighting for relevance. And the gaming space and the academic space as well has the same thing in common, is that the criteria to be significant or to be respected or to be popular, it's easy to identify. Yeah. In the academic space, you know exactly what kind of marks you got to get. And if you get those marks and you get the degrees and the certificates and that, you know exactly what you can expect from people, how they're going to look at you.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be anyone. You just have to be that. In the gaming space, it's the same thing for the youth. They go in there and who gets the highest score in Fortnite or who can do the craziest moves in GTA or whatever it is. It's ridiculous. They don't have a life of substance anymore. And I'm not saying that there isn't something beneficial potentially in the gaming space. So I'm not being this kind of old school that thinks everything modern or everything contemporary is of no use. I'm saying there's no balance. There's no balance between the online world and the real world.
Yeah.
Because when you get married and you have children, gaming is not going to tell you how to raise your children. It's not going to even inform your understanding of why it is that you find it difficult to be emotionally available to your partner or to your children, both from men and women. And that's the other thing, is that we're so genderist in the way we look at these problems that we assume that men are the ones that have problems with being emotionally available and women are too emotionally demanding. No. With the people that I work with in the relationship issues that I deal with couples and things like that, it's both sides. Both sides are struggling with the same things, they just express it in different ways. But it's exactly the same problem of the struggle of being human.
That's so interesting. So would that come down then to then the masculinity question? Is that why that role has changed?
The whole masculinity thing, I was thinking about this the other day. I think because one of the choicest, most popular phrases around masculinity is toxic masculinity. Yes. And the thing is that if you put the word toxic in front of something, then it isn't what you claim it is anymore. So you can't have toxic masculinity. Because the moment it's toxic, it's not masculine any longer. It's something other than being masculine. And the same thing with toxic positivity. If it's toxic positivity, it's not positivity.
Yes.
It's a negativity that's being pushed as positivity. It doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
These narratives that we buy into just don't answer the questions it needs to answer. And we're not even looking at that correlation. We're not looking to see if what we're believing in, what we're trying to achieve is actually solving the right problem or is just solving some problem that someone said is the problem that needs to be solved.
It's the easy way out.
It's the easy way out. And it's this lack of self-awareness and understanding and conviction and just understanding what is it that you want to leave as your legacy. And no one can say they don't care about legacy, right? Because the one thing that sets us apart from animals is that we care about legacy. We care about purpose. And evolution couldn't have given that to us.
Yeah.
Evolution doesn't account for legacy and purpose and reflecting on what others think of us, even though it has nothing to do with our survival, right? So we've lost critical thinking. And we've become drones of prevailing views and democratic kind of knowledge. Yeah. It's been so pervasive that we don't even realize that we're going with popular opinion as if it's the most valid rather than because it has merit.
Yeah.
So when it comes to masculinity and it comes to men trying to be masculine, going to the gym and having a six-pack is not masculine. The purpose behind why you need to do that and what you're going to enable with that, that's what determines whether you're actually doing it for a good reason or you're doing it because of the aesthetic, because that's all you've got going for you.
Yeah.
And too many people are invested heavily and unhealthily in the aesthetic without any substance.
Yeah.
That's why life is empty. And then you place additional demands or unrealistic demands on your partner or on your family or on your children to give you a life of fulfillment. And when they don't do that for you, you blame them for not participating or doing what they need to do. Meanwhile, they learn from you. So everyone's equally distracted, but everyone's waiting for everyone else to do more. I don't know.
Pick up the pieces.
It's crazy.
Talking about legacy, what's the legacy you wish to leave?
To get people to realize how ludicrous mainstream mental health is. Seriously, if anything, the moment we start seeing it for what it is, we'll realize why it is that by embracing it as wholeheartedly as we have, we actually created all the problems we've got in society. When did it become a thing to believe that our brains control how we feel? There's zero science to back it up. But there is 100% peer-reviewed science to confirm that your brain reacts to your emotional experience, not the other way around. The science of the smile. You smile and the physical gesture on your face releases endorphins. It's not the other way around. You don't have to be happy to smile. You just have to choose it. Our choice is the precursor to the experience. We don't hold ourselves accountable for our choices, or we don't even have an understanding of why we chose it in the first place. And then we blame circumstances for why it couldn't have gone differently. And then, of course, when we blame circumstances and how things were meant to be and how it went, then as Muslims, we get ourselves into knots, because then we start having the takdir debate. So if it was meant to be, it will be. Okay, meant. So then what's your accountability in it? Allah says, tie your camel and trust in Allah.
Yeah.
He didn't just say trust in Allah. So when do we tie our camel?
Yeah, you have to do your part.
Yeah, completely. But we don't take accountability for that, because we believe that we're such sincere, righteous beings that if anything bad happens to us, it's because bad things happen to good people. So that's a cynic in me.
If your friends could describe you in one sentence, what would they say?
I don't think they'll be able to do it in one sentence.
Okay.
One of the things I get told often is that I'm intense. I don't understand why, but I get that often.
Okay.
And another thing that I get told often is that I go deep too quickly. Not sure why. But yeah, those are the two common things that I keep hearing about it.
And your favorite quote or your life's motto?
You know, I've never really latched onto anything much over the years. I've got a lot of quotes that I enjoy and things like that. But of late, the one that I always find myself reflecting on the most is the verse from Surah Nisa that says that whatever good you experience is from Allah, and whatever ill you experience is a consequence of your own actions. And that's one of the translations. It's different, but they all confirm the same thing. And that for me just emphasizes and confirms what it is that I'm pushing towards. Self-realization, self-respect, accountability. Take accountability for what you've done, for your contribution towards the situation you find yourself in. And if you don't take accountability for that, you'll always be waiting for someone to save you from it. You're waiting for divine intervention.
Yeah.
But Allah tells us, whatever good is in your life, it's from me. Whatever ill you experience, that's because of you. How? It's because our uninformed choices create consequences that we never intended. Now, just because we didn't intend it and we didn't realize we were going to do that to ourselves, doesn't mean we're not accountable for it. But we stop at blaming. We don't look for accountability. We don't look for something of substance that we can work with. So if anything, that's how I keep myself honest. That's how I keep myself grounded. Because without that, I really don't have anything to hold on to. Then you become a victim of circumstances, a victim of other people's behaviors, of their choices, of their willingness to participate in your life, all of those things. I don't think life works that way.
And your favorite book?
Favorite book? I actually don't have one. Something that most people don't believe is that I'm not an avid reader.
Okay.
I read a lot of content, right? Random stuff or different things that interest me. And that's partly how I inform my perspectives. But it's very difficult for me to take a book and sit down and read it cover to cover unless there's a coherent thread that's building up on it all the time. More often than not, I pick up a book and within the first 15 to 20 pages, you get the gist of it. And then it's just a repeat of the same thing in different ways. And that's why I don't have a favorite book. I can't think of anything that comes to mind that says I would want to read that book again.
And are you writing a book at the moment?
I've written a few, and I'm busy with others now as well.
So which of yours is your most, or touched your heart the most, or had the most impact on anyone else?
Based on feedback I get from readers, it's the fictional autobiography that I wrote, which is describing the experiences of a typical Muslim Indian male growing up in South African Muslim community, and the kind of challenges and the lack of emotional availability and expression and things like that, and the prejudices and biases that he's got to deal with in trying to figure out how life works. So inspired by a lot of true events, but fictionalized to the point of incorporating a lot of examples and a lot of life experiences of people that I've encountered. So not always on my own. The thing that was amazing for me was seeing how many women resonated with the themes in the book, because I wrote it specifically to create a narrative that men could relate to and maybe connect with, and then understand, okay, there's reason why I feel this way or why I'm not connecting in that way.
Yeah.
But the amount of women that resonated with it was, on the one hand, quite interesting, but on the other hand, sad, because, it's one of those double-edged swords. If people resonate with something that has a lot of heaviness behind it or a lot of pain behind it, then on the one hand you feel good that they take comfort from it or familiarity from it, but on the other hand you also have to connect with what it is that they've been through to be able to connect with it in the first place. And that's something that I think is lacking for the most part in the Ummah, is the empathy and compassion of the Sunnah. The character of the Sunnah is lost. We've got the rituals down to a T. We've got no shortage of fatwas and sects and muftis and you name it. But I promise you, you'll have to look long and hard to find someone who's actually living it according to the character of the Sunnah. And that's missing. And trying to establish that without having solid examples around you that you learn through association or exposure, that's the difficult part. That's, in fact, if I had to sum it up, I think that's been my challenge in life.
And a supporting role, or someone in a supporting role that you can always turn to when you feel stuck. Who is that for you?
Don't have that.
You don't?
And that was probably one of the... And I don't know if I don't have it because of absence of support structure, or is it because I'm just kind of anomalous in that way. Okay. It's never been something that I could sit down with someone and explain what it is that I'm grappling with, and they would look at it and think, yeah, I get that, and like bolt on the conversation. Yeah. More often than not, it's you intense, or you too deep, or you taking things too seriously, or whatever it is. But at the same time, there's most people can't keep up with me when I get into my silly mood. So for me, that's balance.
And in your coaching, was there ever a moment where you felt like this is impacting you and teaching you something?
Every single time.
Okay.
In fact, one of the principles that I remind myself about every single time I engage with a client, especially with new clients, is that I need to be as curious about their problem as they are in trying to understand it. I can't go in there believing that I know how it is that we're going to fix this. Because no matter what, there's always some nuance, some subtlety about their specific experience that takes the kind of rule book and just throws it out the window. Yeah. Because there's so many variables in being human. This prescriptive approach that we're taking, the life coaching approach, the NLP approach, all of these, the psychology approach, all of these things that define people according to theories and according to frameworks, you've lost sight of the human. So whenever I engage with anyone, whether it's a client or it's just even random encounter, it's always about trying to understand what is their experience of it within the context of their life, not how are they experiencing it relative to what I think they should experience it as. And the moment you go away from that prescriptive approach and you're more invested in reaching consensus and understanding and awareness of the reality that they're dealing with, it changes the way you engage with them. It changes the kind of space you create for them to be able to talk about it. And it results in where we talk about men who don't want to talk about their feelings. You don't have to talk about your feelings. You're talking about the problem that you're experiencing. And you get to a point where you can acknowledge and identify the way you feel about it, but you can push beyond that, because that's another problem, is that we fixate on how we feel about something. And then we expect people to honor and revere and respect how we feel about it. And we also then honor our feelings, and you must sit with it and all of that nonsense. No one stopped to say, why do we feel that way? And the why, is it correct? Is it legitimate? Do you have a right to feel that way? And if you have a right to feel that way, what's your contribution to it? What can you do about it? There's nothing. We're not giving us substance to work with. We're just telling us what we must do all the time. We don't need to know what to do. We've got books and books and books telling us what to do. We need to understand why we struggle with what we know we want to do anyway. Everyone knows what they want to achieve in life. Everyone knows what kind of person they want to be, but they struggle to be that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense for me to come along and tell you how you must be. I need to help you to understand why it is that, despite knowing you shouldn't be vaping or smoking, why do you struggle with it? Help you to understand why you struggle with it, and you'll give it up on your own. I don't have to tell you what program you have to go through to give it up.
Yeah.
Same thing with everything, from drug abuse to porn addictions and whatever it is. Same principle applies. Connect with the human, help the human to understand their humanness, and you see things happen in ways that you can never predict.
It's finding the root cause.
Exactly. Not symptoms.
Is there a question you wished someone asked you more, or someone actually asked you that they never did?
Why? That's it. Too many people asking what and how. Very few people ask why. We're not curious anymore. And if anything, that's the one attribute we're born with, is curiosity. No one taught their child how to talk. No one taught their child how to walk or crawl. Our curiosity innately got us to develop those skills.
Yeah.
We saw it around us and we practice it ourselves. No one can instruct a child how to learn how to crawl. We've lost that because we're so fixated on getting it right. And we want to get it right because if we get it wrong, it's shameful, it's embarrassing, it's humiliating, and people are going to look down on you and all of those sorts of things. There's no joy in life if you're implementing someone else's solutions all the time. It takes the sweetness out of life.
Yeah. It's a powerful perspective. So to close off today, what words of wisdom would you leave us with?
I don't think I've got any. I think if there's a thought I would want to leave anyone with, is spend more time understanding what impact you have rather than lamenting or being upset about the impact you don't have. We don't understand how much impact we have. And that's why we don't exercise it or build on it. Or we don't interpret people's reactions to us or how it is that they feel about us within the context of how we impact them. People are too fixated on rights and responsibilities. And it's a standing thing with me. Whenever a couple comes to me and they start talking about Islam gives us this right and that responsibility and all that, forget it. You're already heading in the wrong direction. And I think maybe, if anything, given that the family unit is what's suffering the most at the moment, I would want to leave them with this thought, is that for everyone that is trying to navigate relationship problems or marital problems and they're focusing on rights and responsibilities, I want them to find a single hadith where the Prophet ﷺ sat with his wives and discussed rights and responsibilities. And even go one step further. Is there any example where that was consistent between all his marriages? Because the very first marriage in Islam between him and Khadija radiallahu anha, threw all our ideas about marriage out the window.
Yes.
But yet we're still debating about man must be the provider and woman must be the nurturer and the homemaker. And a woman's place is at home and a man's place is in the workplace and all of that nonsense. It's about striking a balance relative to what's unique to your circumstance. We don't have that. People don't look at what they want to create together out of their marriage. They look at what they need out of the marriage. We've lost the plot. It's sad. The ummah that's supposed to be the benefit for mankind has become the liability for mankind. Look at the freedom flotilla that's currently heading towards Gaza.
Yeah.
It's not headed up by Muslims. Yet it's Muslims being massacred. We should be ashamed of ourselves. And our ulama and our leaders, our spiritual leaders and our community leaders, they shouldn't be talking about anything other than that. But what are we fixated on? Sectarianism. I don't think that's a sunnah.
That's deep, powerful words to think about.
Unpopular. It's sad.
Yeah, it really is. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think your words would resonate with a lot of people and have a ripple effect, hopefully.
Inshallah.
And it was a pleasure sitting across the room from you.
Same here. Jazakallah for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.